4 billion people in more than 50 nations. That's almost half of the world's population will be taking part in different elections, from presidential, parliamentary to regional election, with what analysts believe the outcome is likely to shape global politics for years or decades to come. Now, the first round of election of the year started in Bangladesh, and then we'll move on to Pakistan. We'll move to Russia, where Vladimir Putin won a 5th straight term as a Russian president. Still to come, elections in India, elections in the UK, in Mexico, and of course, one of the biggest one in the United States of America is actually going to be the first rematch of the U.S. presidential election since 1956. So in November this year, Donald Trump, barring any challenges, any of the legal challenges he faces, is going to be facing off with incumbent Joe Biden, just like they did in the COVID year of 2020. Africa also has a very busy election calendar this year, 2024. We've already seen the outcome of what played out in Senegal, with the continent's first youngest elected president emerging, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, the nation's president-elect, won the March 24 elections with 54.2% of the vote, and as he was declared the winner. Of course, the election came on the back of protest and agitation against the plan of incumbent President Macky Sall to have the elections postponed. So after different protests are played out, including the arrest of the opposition candidate at the time, Ousmane Sonko, the elections were held and Faye emerged. So his victory was clear after his opponent conceded and unofficial partial results were published, but the margin of victory was finally confirmed on Wednesday by the Vote Counting Commission, which falls under Senegal's judiciary. Now, the turnout for the 2024 presidential race was 61.3%, data reflecting less people than those that voted in 2019 when the outgoing president Macky Sall won his second term in office, but the figure was more than the one was recorded in 2012. Faye won the presidential race 10 days after he was freed from prison. It was officially declared winner as of the presidential election in Senegal, with many people tagging him as the man who rose from prison into the presidency. A lot of lessons to learn from that Senegalese election. People have drawn different inferences. People have looked at the process in comparison to what played out in Nigeria. And some people say, yes, Senegal still remains one of the most stable democracy, especially in West Africa. It's very crucial because it happened at the time when, there are concerns that the, fragile democracy in the sub-region is being threatened as a result of the, various military coups that we saw in West and Central Africa between 2021 and 2024. So people say it's crucial to have this very successful and relatively peaceful election cycle to keep the democracy going on the continent. Yes, as I said earlier, Africa has a very busy election schedule in this year 2024. Though a lot of questions about the credibility, a lot of questions about how the process, how the elections will be conducted, and what is going to happen at the end of the day. But we'll see how it goes. In South Africa as well, they're going to the polls this year. As a matter of fact, the former president Jacob Zuma has been barred from running in the elections in May. The Electoral Commission did not give any reason, but his conviction and jailing for contempt of court would appear to have disqualified him from going up against the ANC, that's Cyril Ramaphosa, the incumbent, who is also facing a lot of issues in his country as well. But let's switch gears from that now as we await our guest this morning, Mr. Philip Shaibu, the Edo State Deputy Governor. We are hoping to connect with him to join us on the conversation. But before that, we have Barrister Mike Ejiofor, the former Director of the State Security Service, DSS. Mr. Mike Ejiofor, great to have you. Welcome back to the podium. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay. A lot has been said about the conduct of security agencies, the NSA, that held the Binance executive who eventually escaped from custody. One of the reasons we decided to connect with you this morning is to, hear from you exactly, as somebody who's been at the helm of the state security services before, whether or not there is a protocol for people to be held in custody, and if somebody eventually escapes like this, some say risks of complicity of the agencies involved, and also is a national embarrassment as well. How does this resonate with you, Barrister Ejiofor?
Well, first of all, like I've said, my previous position, the office of the NSA is not charged, does not have investigative powers. It coordinates security of all the security agencies. So I'm surprised that they have now gone into investigation. And I'm sure that's what led to this escape, which everybody is now calling a national embarrassment. I believe ordinarily that the State Security Service or the EFCC, which was handling the case, should have been in a better position to keep the people in custody. So I see complicity, I see negligence, but more on the part of complicity, because the Binance executive wouldn't have ordinarily that he went to the mosque, left that place, went to the airport, he didn't smuggle himself out of it. He went through the normal route from what we are getting now. So I believe some people are complicit and they must be brought to book.
Yeah, a lot of Nigerians have so many questions, after this escape, although we know that, the federal government said they'll be working with INT'L to ensure his rearrest and everything. As you said, he went through the normal route. It raised a lot of questions. For instance, we know that if somebody is wanted, is it supposed to be like a watch list where the immigration officer is not alerted? Take us through the protocol, really. If somebody is in custody and the person is a flight risk, how does it work? Do they alert the immigration officers at the airports and different points of entry to ensure that the person does not escape from the country? And one will ask if this process also was used in the case of this Binance executive.
Well, for me, one of the responsibilities of the State Security Service is to place subjects of interest on a watch list. But except the SSS is investigating its own matter, or other agencies investigating make request for the SSS in collaboration with the Immigration Service to place such a subject on that watch list. But in this case, the request for watch listing should have been from the office of the NSA. But incidentally, it was not done. Don't also forget they have one of the passports is a British and a Kenyan national. So it's possible his Kenyan passport was what he used. Possibly they were not aware that he had two passports. Concluding or thinking that since he was in custody and they had the custody of his other passport, there's no way he would have escaped the country. But ordinarily, I believe that the request should have been made to the SSS, and the SSS will in turn forward it to Immigration Service for listing and action.
So in this case now, we can say that it was the Office of the National Security Advisor that did not follow the protocol in keeping the man and also informing other sister agencies as well as to placing him on the watch list.
Of course, the Office of the NSA, they should have ordinarily made a request to the State Security Service and Immigration.
But from your years in service, can you tell us when someone is in custody like that, are they granted that kind of, favor to go and pray and come back, or where are they kept? Because some of the reports we gathered was that, had access to his phones, because if you are in custody for such a grave allegation like that, economic sabotage, that means that there has to be, a proper security mechanism to ensure that you do not escape. So what usually happens when somebody of that caliber is in custody? Are they granted that kind of favors?
Once you are in custody, your liberty is deprived or curtailed, except, of course, for some basic rights like access to medical facilities, access, but not freedom of movement. So anybody in custody, in lawful custody, shouldn't have access to go to the mosque to pray. I've had cases where suspects are in my custody. For the Christians, I offer them the Bible, they read the Bible and pray, even within their cells. And the Muslims, the only thing they ask you of, the direction of the sun, where they will face to pray. And that's exactly what happened. I've never heard that a suspect, no matter the kind of person, not this kind of high-risk subject, even if you're a VIP, I don't think should be escorted to the mosque to go and pray.
Okay, so some people have also talked about the legal issues surrounding the manner in which he and his colleague was detained. In fact, the other executive has reportedly filed a fundamental rights violation suit against the office of the NSA, including the NSA himself, Malam Nuhu Ribadu. Do you think that there are also possible legal issues as well concerning the manner in which they were arrested, the manner in which they were detained? Because when the story first broke, some Nigerians were talking about how this does not speak well of us as a nation, that it looks like a kidnap more than an arrest.
Well, it's their right to go to court to enforce their fundamental rights. It's the right of government to take action to enforce the law. Don't also forget that the case is in court. So I don't know why they should be going to court to enforce it. They were in lawful custody for the first 14 days before the subsequent 14 days. So they were in lawful custody, but it's left for the court to determine whether their rights were infringed upon or not.
But Barrister Ejiofor, I know you said that we have limited time with you. I just want to quickly get your thoughts away from the Binance issue now, the rampant issue of kidnapping for ransom. A lot of people have talked about the economic side to it, the fact that there is unemployment, the fact that there is a booming business as well, and almost everyone has had one experience or the other, maybe a family member or a relative spread across different parts of the country. Why do you think this has festered for so long in this country?
Well, kidnapping has become an industry. You hardly hear cases of robbery now because nobody keeps cash in the house. So what people do now, kidnap and ask for ransom, and the money is paid to them. They become rich. But I think it goes beyond the economic reasons or unemployment. Some people are hardened criminals. Some of these kidnappers, too, are ideological, like Boko Haram. This mass kidnapping that has been taking their place, I don't think it's for economic reason or unemployment. But at the same time, they're also making money and they're acquiring more arms. So it becomes a very dangerous trend. I think what we should do is to prevent it from happening. Because once it happens, the tendency for the people to continue to embark on this kidnapping is there. But if we're able to follow through, like tracing the money, follow the money that is received as ransom, and arrests will be made and possibly bring this into a tolerable level, because there's no society without criminality.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the issue of the children in Kaduna State, for instance, who were just released a short while ago, I raised a lot of questions about maybe possible failure of intelligence, need to rejig security architecture as well. Do you see some of these things, especially if you look at the number that were carted away, do you see that as a result of failure of intelligence as well in some cases?
I don't see it as a failure of intelligence, because in some cases, the people even give information that they are coming. But the capacity of our enforcement agents to do this is what the problem is. It's no fault of theirs. They are ill-equipped. They don't have sufficient personnel. They don't have the technological know-how to do what they are doing. So it becomes a problem. So the moment, but if you see that this year, is the highest the government has paid attention to in terms of budgeting for security sector. I think the government is taking seriously, but very soon I believe that we shall succeed in bringing these culprits to book.
Hopefully. One last one before you go. The list released by the NFIU, as I'm afraid we have to go now. We have to go. Barrister Mike Ejiofor said he would spend a very short time with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Barrister. Always a pleasure to hear your thoughts on some of these critical issues. We'll take a quick commercial break now. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation. Hopefully, we'll be connecting with our guest, the Edo State Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu. Stay with us.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Ramadan tó ti dé, ó yá, ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ rìnrìn àjò lọ sáwọn ilé oúnjẹ ìgbàlódé tó yáàyè níbi tẹ́ ẹ ti gbádùn ara yín ní sáà oṣù Ramadan yìí. Àkọ́kọ́ ibẹ̀ ní ilé oúnjẹ Àánú níbi tí pípé ti ṣe pàtàkì. Nítorí náà, ẹ máa fi fún ni. Èyí tó tẹ̀lé ní ilé oúnjẹ Ọrẹ. Nítorí náà, ẹ máa jẹ́ onínúure tòótọ́. Èyí tó gbẹ̀yìn ni pé kó o dúró lójú náà ìdáríjì kó o sì jọ̀wọ́ gbogbo ìkùnsínú. Ní àkókò àsùbá àti ṣínú, kó èrè wọlé pẹ̀lú adùn náà. Lóṣù Ramadan yìí, má kàn jẹun lásán nìkan. Pín ìgbádùn yìí kó o sì wà ní ìdára. Náà, jẹun fún ìdára.
Kárí ìrìn àjò nírọ̀rùn pẹ̀lú ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀ sókè òkun. Iléeṣẹ́ Jolly Craft. Iṣẹ́ yìí yé wọn lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Àwọn gangan lawọ tó kájú ìlú. At Jolly Craft Travels, we offer Jerusalem pilgrimage, Rome Greece pilgrimage, tourism and consultation, ticketing and reservation, tours and transfer, consular services, education tours and services. Ṣètìwá gbà báyìí wípé tiwa yàtọ̀. At Jolly Craft Travels, credibility is our watchword. Value your money. Láti mọ̀ síwájú àti síwájú sí i. Ẹ̀yin náà kàn sí iléeṣẹ́ wọn. 5 Báyọ̀dé Olúwọlé Street, off Balogun Street, ládojúkọ Lagoon Hospital, Ìkẹjà, Lagos. Tàbí ọ́fíìsì wa tó wà nìbàdàn, Richmond Building, Ọjọ́ Sango Road, ládojúkọ UI Campus, Agbowo Ìbàdàn. Telephone 0802-388-2434 tàbí 0909-038-9451. Website www.jollycrafting.com. Ẹ tún lè kàn sí wọn lójú òpó ayélujára gbogbo tó jẹ́ ti Jolly Craft Travels láti rìnrìn àjò sókè òkun nírọ̀rùn. Jolly Craft Travels ló kájú ẹ̀ tó fini lọ́kàn balẹ̀.
bá a ṣe láwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ dókítà tíṣẹ́yé bẹ́ẹ̀ náà la láwọn àwòrán àṣà mẹkáníìkì GMF Auto Services Limited. bóyá ẹ̀ tí ìdébẹ̀ wò ní ọ̀jẹ̀ ẹ̀mọ̀ pọ́nmọ́nàmọ́pa àwọn erin lákàtàbù irinṣẹ́ ni ó diagnose mọ́tò yín kẹ́sẹ́ bí wọ́n ti máa fẹnu fapò sórí carburetor wait and get ni kò ní lọ kábọ̀ tí machine bá ti ń discover problem láàmú fix ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ kan torí gbogbo original spare part ń bẹ ńlẹ̀ bíbá àwọn aláràlù àtàwọn aláràtúntà gan tó wá ń kó lọ́pọ̀ yanturu ṣẹ́rí pé gbogbo ń tẹ́ fẹ́ lójú kan ló wà.
Yes, so our services, the consultancy, diagnosis, key programming, transmission repair, maintenance, spare part sales, plus plenty ogbonge things. GMF Auto Services Limited. Pay for number 3, Oni Lane, beside White House Hotel, behind Boys High School, Labawo, Ogunpa, Ibadan.
Ẹ kọ́ pé wọ́n lórí aago náà kẹ́ ẹ mọ bó ṣe wà sí 0806-634-8917 0806-634-8917 tó o bá fẹ́ kẹ́mi ọkọ̀ rí ogun GMF ni ó yàn láàyò.
ẹ̀yin fans mi.
It's okay.
ẹ lọ sórí gbogbo ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ ní 32 FM 949 fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀ àsáàpù.
It's okay.
ẹ kú ìnáwó òwúyè ẹ sì kú ìnáwó ìyàwó dórí sísí ilé tuntun àwòdámi ẹnu ẹ kú ìnáwó ọjọ́ bí ẹ sì kú ìnáwó retirement ẹ dájú ẹ sọ́nà yóò kò láyé o àmọ́ mo fẹ́ rán yín létí kinní kan ní gbogbo ètò ló ti tò kalẹ̀ yìí tẹ náwó rẹpẹtẹ ẹ ti sanwó eléré ẹ sanwó aláṣẹ onígbàgàrí àti gba tiẹ̀ ẹ sanwó ráìsà dórí àwọn bánsà àmọ́ ṣá o ó kú kinní kan tẹ́ ẹ kà sí ṣùgbọ́n tó yẹ ká ẹ náwó gidi lé lórí ìyẹn gangan ni Parrot Extra Magazine ni wọ́n ṣe ń rán yín létí pé gbogbo ìnáwó tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe yẹ kó lákọọ́lẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ìtàn tó rọ̀ mọ́ àti máa ṣe bọ̀ rẹ nínú ayé lórí àwòrán ojúlùmọ̀ ọ̀rẹ́ alájọbí tẹ́ bá ya fọ́tò lójú agbo kì í sọnù ó sọdún 12 ló tún fẹ́ tún yẹ̀ wò tọ́ lọ́ọ́ náwó sínú àká fún àwọn ìran tó ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn àkọọ́lẹ̀ kì í parẹ́ o Parrot Extra Magazine làwọn tó láròjinlẹ̀ ń lò fún gbogbo ayẹyẹ wọn ilé ìjọba gan òfin wọn ṣeré lórí ilé iṣẹ́ àdáni Parrot Extra oníkọ̀ọ̀kan sí tó bá láyẹyẹ ṣe o 08055001736 08055001736 lórí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára www.pmparrot.com kàn sí PM Parrot káyẹyẹ rẹ̀ ó gbìnàyà.
Wow, Tommy, ó sọ pé fẹ́ wá gbòde mo lóde lọ́wọ́. Ṣé wọ́n ní ìyàwó ni?
Táyọ̀, kí ló tí ì rí? Eléyìí kéré nínú àwọn aṣọ alárànbarà tí mo ti fi ọwọ́ ara mi rán.
Irọ́ ni o. Pé ìwọ ló rán gbogbo àwọn aṣọ tó ń wọ̀ yìí. Níbo ló ti kọ́ ṣe aṣọ ríran?
Táyọ̀, má sọ fún mi pé o tí ì gbọ́ nípa Riaz Fashion Academy. Àkọ́kọ́ ilé-iṣẹ́ aránṣọ tó ní àwọn ètò ẹ̀kọ́ tó tayọ nínú aṣọ ríran fún ìwọ tó tiẹ̀ ní ìmọ̀ rárá nípa aṣọ ríran. Riaz Fashion Academy á kọ́ ẹ bí a ṣe ń di akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ aránṣọ. Onísùúrù èèyàn sì ni gbogbo àwọn olùkọ́ wọn pátá pẹ̀lú irinṣẹ́ ìgbàlódé ni wọ́n á fi kọ́ ẹ bí a ṣe ń di fashion designer. Ṣé kí n já ẹ sí? Kódà mo tún gba ètò ẹ̀kọ́ jára lórí bí a ṣe ń di olókoòwò aránṣọ tó dúró re.
Ṣé lóòótọ́? Wo ọ̀rẹ́ èmi náà bẹ́ẹ̀ débẹ̀ o.
Tara ṣàṣà lọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ forúkọsílẹ̀ fún onírúurú ẹ̀kọ́ nípa aṣọ ríran ní ojú òpó ayélujára ti www.riazfashionacademy.com tàbí kó lọ tààrà sí iléeṣẹ́ wọn ní Fortune Plaza òpópónà Àlàó Akálà Expressway Olúyọ̀lé Extension Ìbàdàn. Nọ́mbà wọn ni 07016249356 tàbí 08118244965. Wá pẹ̀lú àlá rẹ kó sì di mímúṣẹ.
Have you been dreaming or planning to study abroad? Then this is for you. To study abroad, you need information, international passports, and money, among other things. Information is so important that it determines the outcome of the study abroad process. That's why you need Eagles Horizon Consult. We are always ready and excited to add your seamless success story to our record. Start your journey to study in Australia, Canada, UK, or USA today. Call or send a WhatsApp message to 0704 720 0030 or 0704 720 0031 or walk in to Suite 15 FD Mall, 13B University Crescent beside Foodco, Old Bodija, Ibadan, or visit our website www.eagleshorizonconsults.com for more. Eagles Horizon Consult, vision, access, mobility.
Quantum Homes kórè dàálẹ̀ mọ́hẹ́. òtítọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tí ò lábùyẹ̀ nípẹ́ni tí ò tí ì kọ́lé àṣírí ò tí ì bò láti wá ara lẹ̀ kọ́lé ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀ láì ní wàhálà nú. Quantum Homes ti ṣílẹ̀kùn ẹ̀ sílẹ̀ gbaragada nínú ìfà aláìlẹ́gbẹ́ tí wọ́n pè ní Ramadan Easter Fiesta. ọ̀pọ̀ kú ọ̀yọ̀kulẹ̀ máa ra lẹ̀ láwọn estate wa báyìí lásìkò Ramadan àti Easter tó panupọ̀ yìí. Vienna City lámúlòkó 500,000 naira lẹ́ máa ra lẹ̀ ń bẹ̀ yàtọ̀ sí 1 million naira táǹtà. Delta City lólódó ń bàdàn 300,000 naira lẹ́ máa ra lẹ̀ ń bẹ̀ yàtọ̀ sí 750 táǹtà. Atlanta City mọ́níyà 300,000 naira péré ní ilẹ̀ bẹ̀yẹn náà yàtọ̀ sí 800,000 táǹtà. èyíkéyìí tẹ́ bá fẹ́ nínú àwọn estate wa àǹfààní ẹ̀dínwó rẹpẹtẹ ni yàtọ̀ sí iye owó ẹ̀ gangan. pábánbá ìnira plọ̀tì mẹ́ta kó gbà kan sí lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́ pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àgbàyanu ẹ̀bùn bíi fridge cooker tv àpò sìmẹ́ǹtì rẹpẹtẹ tó fi mọ́ fáànù àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. tó bá ti wáyà yín láti ralẹ̀ ayọ̀ lásìkò Easter Ramadan promo yìí ẹ máa pe Quantum Homes sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ 0806 034 2510. Quantum Homes lóní ẹ wá kọ́lé ayọ̀.
Feel better about your life.
32 FM, 94.9, the antidote to depression.
Welcome back to the podium on 32 FM 94.9. We have our panelists with us in the studio, Barrister Yomi Ogunola. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Nigeria. So good to be here.
Yeah, and Professor Remi Ayede of the University of Ibadan. Prof, good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to join Barrister and you on the podium.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Of course, we are still waiting to join our guest for today, the Edo State Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu. There's a lot to unpack with him. Hopefully, we connect with him, as soon as possible. But I'm sure, Barrister, you heard Barrister Mike Ejiofor earlier. Too bad that he was only able to spend a very short time with us, talking about the issue of kidnapping for ransom and complicity amongst our security agencies with the escape of that Binance executive, the manner in which he fled the country, passing the normal route. Not like he was smuggled out, not like he disguised as a woman, like the late Alamesia. But this time around, he went to the normal route and left the country. I mean, what did you make of Ejiofor's submission?
Yes, I think he spoke straight to the point, and I quite agree with him. If not for the limitation of time, I had wanted to ask him a very, very fundamental question, and that is with respect to capital offenses in relation to capital punishment. I wanted to get his view because quite a number of people are beginning to look in that direction, that the country should perhaps introduce capital punishment. Maybe that will deter, majority of
the terrorists.
Exactly, and it's also a very good development that the president has decided to make kidnapping, banditry, and the likes, or declaring them to be terrorist activities. I think it's a good development, and I really would have loved Ejiofor to have said one or two things about that.
Let me go to Prof now. Prof, before Barrister Ejiofor joined us as well, I was talking about the busy election year for different African countries. Elections are coming up in South Africa, in Chad, all over the place. I mean, they're half of the world's population. I think I was reading a VOA report. They said that half of the world's population will be going to the polls for all kinds of elections this year. What did you make of what played out in Senegal? They say Senegal is still where West Africa's most stable democracy from what we have seen. The crucial election that they had amid all of the controversies that happened. Macky Sall wanted to postpone, people protesting as well. What did you make of the process?
Yeah, I think Senegal escaped implosion. If you look at the activities that preceded the election, the postponement, the imprisonment of political opponents, the third-term ambition of Sali, and all the rest, this country is really lucky. And it's also kudos to the people in the streets, the civil society organization, the young people who rose up against the machinations of the incumbent president. I think that rescued Senegal, from the nose of the tiger. So they are lucky, and the outcome became exceptional in the sense that the young man in his 40s winning the election right from the prison. It's a major achievement for Senegal. And as it turned out, I think Sall was overwhelmed by the reactions not only from within the countries but also from civil society groups across the ECOWAS sub-region. In fact, there were lots of campaign against him. Even right here in Nigeria, I remember concerned intellectuals, I was part of them in Abuja, made a statement when he postponed the election, and he gave the impression that the election will be postponed indefinitely. I think it's important that we all know that eternal vigilance is the price of democracy, and each time dictators try to put a fast one on us and on citizens have the responsibility to rise up to challenge those behaviors, even if it will lead to imprisonment. I remember talking to young people recently about the EndSARS movement, and they were saying, some of us died. And I told them, there has been no major movement against dictatorship that has not led to the death of one or two people or even many people, and that should not deter them. Those who survive the situation will live to tell the story of the heroes who fell during the struggle. The June 12th election also saw a lot of people die, and we have some of them who have become heroes of democracy. And we must not be deterred, we must not be frightened, we must not sit back and say, it's too much. It is our country, it's our life. We have to fight for freedom. It is not only political positions that is not served a la carte. We also have to push for democracy, fight for it, and defend the democracy.
Yeah, let me go to Barrister. I mean, just like Prof said, we saw the Senegalese people standing up and saying no to President Macky Sall. There were protests, people were arrested. Eventually, it was Macky Sall himself that had to, rescind this position and then allow the elections to hold on the scheduled date. What lesson can we learn from that, especially as Africans? Because as Prof said, Senegal was quite lucky because some countries would have descended into anarchy. A military coup might have happened, or the president might have amended the constitution by fiat and then declared himself for a third term in office, suspend parliament, but that didn't happen. Was it just the way the people spoke up? What can we learn from it as a country?
Yes, there are so many lessons to be learned. I think foremost of the lessons is allowance for the rule of law, because I think that was what played out. And we also saw the activities of the judiciary in that country.
Very important.
It was very, very active. I think overall, the people spoke and their voices were heard. That's a big lesson for Nigeria, that is supposed to be the giant of Africa, that we must allow the rule of law to prevail. We must remove the shackles from the judiciary, and we must allow the people's voice to be heard.
Does this also lend credence to the argument that it's not that democracy is not working in Africa? It will work if you allow it to work, right? Because some people have always said, oh, maybe it's because the model is the Western model is not working on the continent. Maybe we should find a way to, let me use the term, Africanize the kind of democracy we practice.
See, there is no system that will not work. What makes a system unworkable are the practitioners. In Nigeria, we have, with due respect, very irresponsible and indisciplined politicians. And that's why we're having what we're having. You saw that the outgoing president of Senegal wanted to embrace that model. But, maybe after some second thoughts, he saw that that would not be possible in Senegal. So there is no system that cannot work. Parliamentary system was what that people are calling for now, was the one in place, after independence.
In the 60s.
In the 60s. Where did it land us? All right? So it has a great deal to do with the practitioners. It's the same thing with constitutions. There is no constitution that cannot work, whether it is a rigid constitution, whether it's a flexible constitution, whether it is a written constitution, or whatever it may be. Everything depends on the people who are running it. When America made its constitution, I keep repeating that, it was a 12-page document. And that 12-page document has endured even till now, of course, with amendments here and there. So a great deal depends on the people who want to work a system. There is no system that is perfect. All right?
Yeah. And Prof, does this also create hope as well? Because the polls happened amid a series of coups in both West and Central Africa, in Gabon, in Niger, in all kinds of places with the military taking over. But you still have that one where, as many people have said, the will of people prevailed with the way it was declared and the celebration that hit the street of Dakar. Does it create hope as well for this fragile or nascent democracy, as some people will call it?
Somebody described it as good news from the French.
Because they've been going through a lot of turmoil lately. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a great news, and I want to underscore the point that Barrister made in terms of the decision of the courts. When Sally decided that he was going to postpone the election, it is the courts that declared that postponement unconstitutional, and that then forced him, to fix a date for that election. Otherwise, the parliament was already going approving his extension, the extension of his tenure till December. And it tells you that, politicians are politicians
everywhere. Yes.
The important thing is how those who want to protect the institution, the rule of law, how the extent to which they are also
Prof,
able to hold their ground.
I think we should also say one or two words about the country's security apparatus. Because from the way it looks, it appears unlike what we have in Nigeria, where the head of the military, the head of the police is subject to Mr. President's dictates. I don't think that played out in that country. What do you think, Prof?
No, it did not. I think one good thing about Senegal is that they've had this long tradition of democratic practice. So the institutions were relatively firmly strong compared to what you have here. Here, once the president is sworn in, everybody starts doubling for him.
Exactly.
Rankadede everywhere. And so you don't even understand this institutional relationship between these other bodies and the presidency. It then seems as if the presidency is an absolute authority,
and that's why.
And
that's why a lot
must
of people are
before
saying Nigeria's president is the most powerful in the world, and why not? Everybody kowtows the president.
Yeah, kowtows the president,
and that should not be.
Yeah, you made a point about the judiciary earlier, and the fact that the lawmakers might have just gone the way of Macky Sall, but it was judiciary that intervened. And you talked about how politics is everywhere, and especially if the ruling party has the majority in the parliament, they are most likely going to toe the line of the president that is in the executive. So, I mean, yes. What does that say about executive-legislative relationship?
No, that it's always a problematic relationship in Africa because of the patronage system. But what you find in Senegal is the strength of two forces. The forces of these people, society, because again, there's been a strong opposition, over the years that preceded Saliu's government. And then
Usman Sonko,
all of those guys, they've actually been in the trenches fighting, as opposition organization. Then you have the judiciary declaring its stance, removing itself from partisan politics, and maintaining its integrity. It's a slap on democracy, and the man got away with it. I think these are some of the challenges that we have. Again, Senegal is lucky. The kind of interethnic divisions that we have in Nigeria.
They don't have it.
Yes, because politicians play around that. And their calculus around it is always very effective because there are strong sentiments around identities in Nigeria. And so it's a ready ace that any politicians can hold on to, and it will work.
So in terms of that, means that we cannot really use it to judge Nigeria's democracy because they are not as diverse in terms of religion. They are not as diverse in terms of tribe compared to us as Nigerians.
Absolutely. And almost everyone in Senegal is a Muslim. And you don't have that dangerous mix of identities like we have in Nigeria. So that helps. Even for civil society to cohere in Nigeria, it's a big challenge. We see that during June 12th struggle, where some people will say on June 12th we stand, another said on June 12th we sit. And then we have a very robust movement against the military suddenly, coming to pants at the seams on the strength of ethnic differences. It was a big blow, and that's why when the military eventually left, we couldn't find those activists taking the reins of power. In fact, those of them who eventually became co-opted fizzled out of the struggle for justice, for fairness, and universal citizenship within the Nigerian country.
And Barrister, does this also show that you can actually have the best of both? Because people talk about how democracy has not really yielded anything. It has only empowered the elite in Africa. But looking at the Senegal example, does it show that we can have the best of both worlds? Because people use the example of Rwanda, for instance. Paul Kagame does not care about fair and fair election. He says it every time. I saw one of his interviews where a reporter asked him that the European Union said the election you had last year. He said, I don't need the European Union to approve my election. We don't need them. Exactly. So people say that even if he's a C-type president, people are seeing the result. They're seeing the economy booming. And we don't need to have this kind of multi-party democracy that we're practicing in Nigeria. But when you see the way it's happened in Senegal, does it show that you can see have the best of both worlds?
Yes, it is still possible. When you look at the Rwandan case, you will see that the president has been a unifying force, especially after the experience they went through.
In 94.
Exactly. And there will be that need to ensure that, the unity that they appear to be enjoying today endures for a very long time before you bring in all these kinds of party politicking and the rest of the stuff. So there's a good reason for what is happening in Rwanda. And of course, they sure have quite a number of things to show for it. But in Senegal, I adopt everything Prof has said about that place. Perhaps because they have this, should I call it heterogeneous, background, that their politics is somewhat different from what we have in Nigeria. But if we look at America, America is a melting pot of, diverse
cultures and backgrounds,
and yet they are able to forge the kind of unity that has held that country together. So why is it impossible here? I think we are just being selfish because our diversities ought be our strength, but we have not used it as such. Politicians are capitalizing on the divisions to enrich themselves and do all kinds of shenanigans, and that's not good enough for the country. Democracy can work. Like I said earlier, there is no system that cannot work. It only requires the right mindset, to make it work.
Yeah, and Prof, I mean, the question I was asking Barrister earlier as well, just to buttress his point, is about what some people call benevolent dictators. Because in Tunisia, I know the president, when he came in, he suspended parliament, did everything. And some of the supporters said that, what they need right now is not democracy. What they need is a leader that has a political will to drive them through the current hardship that they are facing. And he's there now. He's declared himself president, although a lot of opposition members are condemning it. They say it's a coup, but he's there. And some of the supporters are saying they need it. So, I mean, if you look at some of these examples, some people would say that democracy has only impoverished the people, that I don't care. Even if you don't allow fair and fair election, just work on inflation figures, work on the currency, make sure there's security. I don't care.
Yeah, it's an old argument, actually, that preceded even the rise of military dictatorship before the third wave of democratization hit us in the 1990s. What has always been the argument is that the democracy has always been very divisive, and politicians are often competing for access to public resources, which they then privatize into as their private assets, and that what we need is a dictatorship that will enforce the kind of discipline that is required in a country that is just trying to find its feet. Now, if you look at what's going on in Rwanda, of course the West condemn the lack of openness and the constriction on freedom, but go to Rwanda today, you find that many international organizations have their headquarters in Kigali, and right now Kigali is now competing with Nairobi as the center of global non-governmental organizations, because these development agencies, they work around Africa, but they often have their headquarters in either Nairobi or Kigali. And so Kigali has become competitive. And you see that when Kigali declared visa-free for Africans, Kenya has also followed suit to declare Kenya also visa-free for Africa. Those are the two countries that are competing, for attention. So dictatorship, if you call it that way in Rwanda, has not deterred the West from romancing with Rwanda. Even when the United Kingdom was talking about deporting
it was Rwanda that they chose, yes.
Because they know that society is well organized, well policed, and stable. So if you are in there, you can't do nonsense. If the man guarantees you that those who have come to Rwanda will not leave Rwanda, they will not be able to leave Rwanda. So I think there's a case for that. But of course, the Rwandese will not tell you that there's no democracy. Because they go through the ritual of elections, and it depends on what you call free and fair elections. Is it the ones that are endorsed by the EU? Because the same thing applies in Russia. Even China, they will tell you they have their own democratic processes, and that elections are conducted into certain offices regularly, consistently.
In fact, when the party sits, what's the name of the Communist Party? They have this annual meeting. That's when they make some of those decisions.
They are parachutes of the party. So they all conduct elections, into some of those offices. But the elections, of course, are not designed in the way the Western democratic system operates. This idea of term limits and of course the idea of regular election conducted in such a way that the whole world or the entire country will be in a frenzy. When election comes, that's not the way. They've routinized all of those processes, and so you don't have the kind of uproar that you find.
So you can still be friends of the West, even if you are a dictator in your country. It's based on interest at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's take another commercial break. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation. We're still, trying to get to our guests for today. Philip Shaibu, the Deputy Governor. Don't go. We'll be back in a moment.
Stay tuned to 32 FM 94.9.
Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule, ìmọ́lẹ̀ ló dá òkùnkùn ò dá, Ọlọ́run má sọ wá sókùnkùn ayé. Àmín o, Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule, ilé-iṣẹ́ authentic television ló gbé jáde.
Ìmọ́lẹ̀ dé òkùnkùn parada. Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule. Ojú ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ara. Èdùmàrè má gbòde ọ̀sán lọ́wọ́ wa. Àkànṣe gbòógì tá a fi mọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ṣe fún ìtọ́jú ìmọ́lẹ̀ tí ò mọ́lẹ̀ kedere. Tàbí tó ń wò báyìí. Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule. Egbògi oníkóró ni NAFDAC ìlú ló ń tẹ̀ gbà. Authentic clear vision ló ṣe é. Ó wà ní chemist àti pharmacy stores lágbègbè rẹ̀. Ẹ tún lè ríra lọ́fíìsì Authentic clear vision. Tó wà business complex. Lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ Amidu Ajibade shopping complex Gate Ìbàdàn. Àǹfààní ńlá wà fún alágbàtà tó ń kó ní pálípálí.
081-4254-3127. 081-4254-3127.
Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule. Tí o bá sí àyípadà bó o ṣe fẹ́, tètè lọ rí dókítà rẹ o.
Ojúlọ́ba ara Aba Capsule, ilé-iṣẹ́ authentic television ló gbé jáde.
Kò bá jẹ́ 24, 29 tàbí 32 ṣáà ti fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú wa lórí gbogbo ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ kàn tẹ 32FM 949 fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀.
Living Proof Supermarket àràgbá yamuyamu ilé ìtajà ìgbàlódé ló tún fàsìkò yìí dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo oníbàárà wa fún ìbádòwòpọ̀ lóòrèkóòrè. Ẹ ṣé àdúpẹ́ o. Àwa gan tún ṣe ní ìlérí wípé a ò ní já yín kulẹ̀ nígbà kọ̀ọ̀kan. Ẹ má wàá gbàgbé wípé bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe ń bá wa ra ọjà láì tẹ̀tì ni customer loyalty point yín ga sí i láti tún gba shopping vouchers pẹ̀lú àwọn oríṣiríṣi ẹ̀bùn tó jọjú. Gbogbo nǹkan tẹ́ wá ń fẹ́ láti rà ló ti wà lójú kan ní gbogbo ẹ̀ka ilé ìtajà Living Proof Supermarket, Pinnacle Building, Fẹ́lẹ́lẹ̀ Ìbàdàn, Old Marchant Pharmacy, Lee City University tó fi mọ́ Total Filling Station Mọ̀lété àtèyí tó wà ń Bódìjà pẹ̀lú èyí tó wà lẹ́bàá Capital Kitchen àdójúkọ Asalam Schools, Akala Expressway, Olúyọ̀lé Extension Ìbàdàn, àtẹ̀káwa tuntun tó wà ní Ayétòrò Òṣogbo. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe ń fẹ́ lẹ́ òṣèré rà ní Living Proof Supermarket. Fún àlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ ẹ pè 081-8888-7120 081-8888-7120 Living Proof Supermarket, ọ̀rẹ́ oníbàárà ní tòótọ́.
Ọ̀kọ̀lọ́kọ̀ Ramadan dé oṣù ìkẹlọ́jà o. Ramadan dé oṣù àlùbáríkà ní 32 FM 94.9. Àjàkẹ́rin kòkó ọ̀sán náà wà nìbàdàn. Ọ̀nà ń kí wa pé a kú àmójúbà o. Múmínì múmínà á máa kú ọdún. Ó mà tún ti yá ká wá ṣiṣẹ́ ládàá. Káṣọ onígbọ̀wọ́ ètò iye tágbára bá ká. Ìṣẹ́jú márùn-ún mẹ́wàá tàbí ìṣẹ́jú mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dógún. Ọgbọ̀n ìṣẹ́jú wákàtí kan lówó kékeré. Ọyá kàgbéra ká lọ rà lága Ramadan. Hello, Mr. Ayédùn. 070-8319-6095 àwọn gan ló máa gbé. Tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ Yusuf lórí nọ́mbà yìí 08146113680 àwọn ló máa gbé. Ramadan yìí máa dùn wá sọ̀pọ̀ ọdún.
Àsìkò tún ti tó báyìí pẹ̀lú Gbẹ̀ngà Adéyínká and friends nílùú Ìbàdàn. Ó yá ìwà fojú kan ní àwọn òṣèré ńlá lábí Kóredé Bello, Aristobank, T-Famous, Ọmọ Bàbá, Bash, Bàbátúnmiṣe, Dr. Smile, Wale Waves, Babaláríyá, The Ambassadors, Ozen, Ẹ̀tẹ́yẹ, MC90s, Mr. Rain, Rapping Daddy, Taiji, Vickies, Gbẹ̀ngà Laughter Castle, Mario, Mikoyo, Prince Fela, Stylo, Creative_Tobi, Cartoon Boys, DJ Sexy àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ó máa wáyé ní March 31 Easter Sunday ní Jogo Center, Ring Road, Ìbàdàn. Láago 3 ọ̀sán. Owó ìwọlé ni regular 3K, VIP 10K, double of 8, gold 500K, platinum 1 million, seats on tables 65K àti 120K. Tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì wà ní Essence, Ace Supermarket, Food Court Restaurant, Ultima Restaurant, Grande Stores àti ní online lórí ariyaticket.com àti grandtickets.ng. Multina, Goldberg, Biggie àti S-Bitters ló mú gbogbo pọ̀pọ̀ ṣìṣì wá fún yín. Love Matters Ìbàdàn ẹ̀ tí rí nǹkankan. Ilé akéde ní 3294.9 FM.
Egbògi kan ti délẹ̀ yìí. Egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ ṣe ni. Ó dára fẹ̀jẹ̀ gidi gan. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o.
Ojú rẹ̀ ṣàǹjọ̀lọ̀ lójoojúmọ́ kí làṣírí ẹ wà rí.
Veneto cleanser ni.
Jámi sí ọ̀rẹ́.
Veneto cleanser. Egbògi àtẹ̀jẹ̀ṣe tí bádọ̀tí ara wọ̀ yá ìjà rẹ̀ wọ́n mọ́lẹ̀ ṣe wọ́n yẹbẹyẹbẹ. Inú tó ń kú tó ń dàrú gbòdògbòdò. Kò bára rẹ̀ èrí inú ẹ̀jẹ̀. Amọ̀nà ti dé o.
Veneton cleanser egbòogi atẹ́jẹ̀ṣe tí a fi ewé àti egbò ṣe ní ọ̀nà tìgbàlódé. NAFDAC fòǹtẹ̀lù ME1 Nigeria Limited ni wọ́n gbé Veneton cleanser jáde. A wà ní nọ́mbà 17 Ọba Akínyẹlé off Adeogun Street Aláàfin Avenue Olúyọ̀lé Estate Ring Road Ìbàdàn. Telephone 08034051533 fún títà àti rírà. Ìwọ náà darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Veneton cleanser àmọ̀tẹ́kùn egbòogi tí ń ya gbogbo kòkòrò inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́.
àǹfààní ńlá tí lè léyìí o fún gbogbo èèyàn tẹ̀ fẹ́lẹ̀ síbi táwọn èèyàn ti ń gbé tíná mọ̀nàmọ́ná wà ń bẹ̀ tọ́nà sì da dórí ilẹ̀ náà pẹ̀lú perimeter fence àtàwọn ohun amáyédẹrùn mìíràn tó ń dé ètò ààbò tó péye pàápàá jùlọ tí kò sí payà wàhálà ọmọ nílẹ̀ rálẹ̀ kó gbalẹ̀ lójú ẹsẹ̀ ni iléeṣẹ́ mayor KK Global Engineering Company tó wà ní MKK multipurpose building agara odò ẹja new garage area Ìbàdàn ló ń ṣe gudugudu méje yàyà mẹ́fà fún gbogbo àwọn oníbàárà wọn iléeṣẹ́ tó ti wà fún ọ̀pọ̀ ọdún sẹ́yìn tí kò sì sálẹ̀ẹ́bù nínú orúkọ wọn àwọn olónílẹ̀ Grace Estate tó wà ládébáyọ̀ area Olúyọ̀lé local government headquarters office Ìbàdàn.
nítorí àǹfààní mega promo tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́ ẹ lè rí lẹ̀ rà ní Grace Estate ní 500,000 naira pẹ̀lú ẹ̀bùn.
bẹ́ẹ̀ làǹfààní san díẹ̀díẹ̀ náà tún wà ìwọ náà tara ṣàṣà kó wá gba fọ́ọ̀mù dáǹfààní yìí ó tó kásẹ̀ ńlẹ̀.
kọ́lọ̀ WhatsApp 07053936013 07053936013.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Safa sapeli sizo simnyama Iwasafa isizo saba
The love of the nation is in your hand. The prayer is in your mind. Pray for our country. Educate our children. All the members of our church and mosque, the sermon we give to them is important. We don't condemn your own nation. I'm a Yoruba man, and our father will say, no matter how slippery the bottom of your child, leave the bead there. Leave the bead there. This is your country. Don't condemn it in sermons. Don't abuse the nation. Leadership are meant for changes. Yes, this leader is bad, fine. Wait until it's time to renew his mandate and say no. But don't condemn your country. Don't curse Nigeria. It's a beautiful land of prosperity.
He also calls
Welcome back to the podium on 32 FM 94.9. You heard the voice of the president there. A message to religious leaders talking about, love for the nation. Don't curse your nation. Even if you don't approve of the policies of the current leader, wait till when he wants to renew his mandate, and that's when you have the the opportunity to exercise your right and not vote for the person to win a second term in office. Prof, did you listen to the president? What did you make of his admonition to religious leaders?
Yeah, it's good to talk about your country, but it's also good to criticize your country when it is going astray. And that is even a higher responsibility. Then of course, that the issue of cursing, these are things that religious leaders should not do. But for the president to say that we should wait till after 4 years is a non-starter because you have to keep the president on his toes. You have to let him know where his policies are biting citizens, and he has also to listen to alternative options that's coming even from the opposition in terms of how to improve things within the country. The idea is after 4 years, he will go back to the electorate to get their verdict, whether he has performed well or not. But between those elections, he should be kept on his toes.
Yeah, so maybe what he's saying is, let me concentrate first. Let me do my 4 years. So after the 4 years, it's like a scorecard. You rate me.
No, but that's not the process. That's not the democratic process. Yeah. Even within the structure of government itself, we have what we call horizontal accountability. That's why we have the Office of Auditor Generals, we have the Office of Accountant General.
In fact, he did it for his ministers because I think Adiza Bala Usman,
absolutely.
They said she's going to do an appraisal for each minister after a period of time to know who will be retained and
who would have to leave the cabinet.
Yes.
That's the process. So even as he is doing his own, we are also supposed to keep our eyes wide open to see whether the president is leading the country in the right direction. We don't have to wait on until 4 years when we must have ended up in the ditch, to respond to policies that we consider inappropriate. I think the president is not right in his expectation. He should, in fact, tell us that he will run an open and transparent government, and that whatever policies he's making, is the results is achieved, the implementation processes, all of those things will be open to scrutiny. He shouldn't tell us to wait until, because again, even the decision after 4 years will be based on what we already know. And it will be too late for us to wait for 4 years when the damage would have been so great for us to regret. So I think the president is not right in saying that we should wait until after 4 years.
But let me quote one part of that statement. He says, pray for our country, educate our children. The sermons we preach to the members of our churches and mosques are important. Do not condemn your nation. I mean, we talked about Barris. I talked about Senegal earlier. The fact that they are not as diverse as us. Religion is a very sensitive issue in Nigeria. So, what do you make of that part of that statement as well? That the messages we will preach, we will tell these people in our sermons, tell our congregation, either in churches and mosques, are very important, and they should always carry the love of the nation, not curses or condemnation.
Well, you see, for me, I have never seen anything different between the faith institutions and government. They appear to be partners, in the destruction of this country. There are some messages, without doubt, that ought not to come from those faith organizations, that the government overlooks. I would rather want a situation where government is harder on these religious bodies, because they are causing more harm than good.
They should be hard on them.
Oh, definitely. I'm telling you, because there are so many things that are happening. For instance, the issue of tax payments and all that. Yes, government should ensure that happens. You can see all that is happening. There was a case.
But is that not going to be? Is that not going to be misinterpreted? Because Nigeria is a very sensitive country, depending on the religion that you belong to.
That's why. That's why we're not making progress.
Because, for instance, the president, the current administration is they came on a Muslim ticket. So, if what you're suggesting were to happen, the kind of backlash that will create.
Now look at what Gumi has been saying for quite a while now, and there appears to be nobody to put him in check. And some of the Christian leaders too. Look at what they have been doing. And yet we see daily the atrocities that are being committed in the name of God. About a couple of days ago, we saw the case of a pastor in Ogun State that killed a woman and buried her in the church for money ritual and so on and so forth. There are so many of those cases. You see videos of pastors who are doing all kinds of unimaginable things in their search for so-called miracles and what have you. They claim to wake up the dead, and we have the mortuaries there. You don't find them going there. They claim to heal the sick, and the hospitals are filled with sick people. They are not going there. You see, deceiving the people, faking the people. I was listening to one preacher. I think it was Adeboye. And I felt very, very bad. He was telling his congregation that they could get to from point A to point B.
Okay, I mean, the barrister, this is a very, sensitive terrain that we are delving into.
I know.
Yes, that we're delving into.
It's out there on social media.
Yes.
Telling them you can get from point A to point B without going in a car. You can get from point A to point B without flying, in an aircraft. All you have to do is just say, I am coming to London, and you appear in London. I mean, what kind of messages are those kind of... Anyway, but that's aside.
Yes.
For the president, there is a lesson they have to learn, and I think Prof has said the much of it. When you are looking for your enemies, look more among those praising you. Not everyone criticizing you is your enemy. Not all those praising you are your friends. That is a big lesson our politicians should learn. When Tinubu came, he came with his courage on subsidy. If we had kept quiet, do you know what this country would have turned into? But because good men and women of society came out and said, look, this is not what we said. We do not want subsidy that is enmeshed in corruption. We wanted corruption out of it. And now you can see the government is paying subsidy again, despite all the whatever, gra that they did. Look at the case of Niger. That's another.
Absolutely.
Nigerians came. If Nigerians had not come out, probably we'll still be at war with Niger. So criticism is good. It keeps government on its toes. And any good government would listen more to critics than those sycophants that surround them and paint the wrong pictures about society. And lastly, when Tinubu said Nigeria is a land of prosperity, I don't know what he is talking about, because majority of Nigerians definitely are not saying that same thing. And I was discussing with my friends here a couple of days ago, and I said it is criminal for Nigerians to be subjected to the kind of wahala we have now, particularly in the power sector. People, the heat out there now, and then you have a government that is paid by we, the taxpayers, buying generators and enjoying air condition 24/7. Why, who does that? They should feel what we feel. That's the only way changes can come. Nigerians have come out, they have told politicians, look, let your children go to school in Nigeria. If they go to school in Nigeria, the urge to develop, the sector will be more. If you go to hospitals in Nigeria, the urge to develop will be more. But you have a minister of power who is using, if you see the power bank with that guy they use, man, how can you expect light when he has already gotten an alternative? Our rulers should face what we face. That is the only way good changes can attend society.
And Prof, looking at the president's statement again, you tend to want to analyze the issue of patriotism on the side of criticism of the country. The role of the religious leaders as well, because going back to the 2023 elections, the build-up, we saw that, should I say, an unprecedented level of intervention by different, religious groups, churches and mosques and what have you. Some were prophesying, some were telling their congregation that you should go this way, some sat on the fence, and there were reactions depending on whichever side of the divide you stood. So maybe he's saying this because he understands the influence that religious leaders have and the extent to which it can, whatever they say can change the mind of their followers. That's why he made the statement. So where I'm going with this is, how do we then balance both criticizing the leaders, telling people to put the leaders on their toes in such a way that it doesn't show that you have resentment towards your country?
Well, I think you are right on it when you talked about the president's experiences during the 2023 elections. You know that since the period of the OIC, and more particularly during the presidency of Jonathan, religion was politicized in such a way that you have the president of the PFN, the Participant Fellowship of Nigeria, sitting right there in the presidency and having some collaboration there. And subsequently, the Muslim ticket also provoked religious agitation from the Christian circle, where there was strong opposition against that. But I think more importantly is the fact that in northern Nigeria, we always talk about the Friday, the Jumat service, and what normally can happen after that event. And when you have a situation where the north is crying about poverty, about hunger, and then you know that the Jumat service is very potent.
Maybe the reason for the president's admonition is, there's this one that they said came out and said the wife of Mr. President was going to be assassinated or something like that. That could probably have informed.
Absolutely. There's a direct threat that comes from that circle. Exactly. And that may have been the most important concern.
So it is only when it affects them. Look at the issue of blasphemy in the north.
No, we're talking about prosperity. And you ask, when he says it's a prosperous country, prosperous to who?
To who?
Maybe he's talking about the potential then.
Oh, no,
but they are already enjoying prosperity. The wife told the Nigerians, that they have more than enough.
Yeah.
And yet Nigerians have nothing.
How much in buying cars? So I think the contradictions of the president, of the government itself, is provocative. and religious leaders, especially in the north, can take advantage of it to cause confusion, because you always have this mass movement of people during the Friday Human Service, and on many occasions riots have begun from those centers. And when the north is now crying about hunger, then you know the potential of such explosion spontaneously happen as a result of the preachment that come from the pulpit is really very high. So I think the president is genuinely and informed, allegedly doing so, sending strong signals to those religious leaders that he's concerned about what they say to the people, and they recognize the
Prof,
possibility.
Would you call that strong signals? Because to me, it sounds more like appealing. You know,
well, you know the president's style. If you know this president's style, you will know that he speaks softly, openly, but they take very radical actions underneath.
Okay.
So you think it's different from the Buhari style, where you get to hear more from Garba Shehu and Femi Adesina? Yes. Because I remember that time. Anytime Bishop Uka releases a statement, Garba Shehu releases a statement to counter him, and then it goes on and on.
Look at the case of Deborah. Where are we with that case? Akalogo.
It has gone nowhere.
Where did we go? Tomorrow, there is another one. I think I read in the papers. Another with another individual that was being threatened for blasphemy. What have we done about that? Should that be the picture that we paint of our religions? Should people take the laws into their hands? Why should such things happen in a land governed by laws? So these are really big problems for the country. And what are we doing about it? Why should some people be bigger than the law?
Some of them have been kicked out of the dismissed from the court as a result of poor prosecution.
Exactly.
So we have those situations.
Yeah.
But I think the president's real concern is the event of an upheaval, and they are trying to avoid that in whatever way they can, either by openly appealing to those leaders, while also underneath sending strong signals to them that they are being watched.
Okay, we have Barrister Monday Ubani joining us now on the podium.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Yes, good morning. Thank you for joining us, sir. Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, okay, so we would switch over from the initial conversation we're having now to engage you on the recent, slain soldiers in Delta State, the reaction of the military, as well as, the very sad feeling the loved ones that he left behind are in at the moment. But let me ask you first, there's been a lot of reaction to it. Some say the military had no business being there. Some say it's a police operation. Some say, whatever happens, the army is a symbol of our sovereignty and they should not be treated that way. I mean, what's your reaction? How does this story resonate with you, really? The way the soldiers were killed and what has happened after that?
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing I say we should not encourage in Nigeria is the wanton destruction of lives, by any person whatsoever, whether it is by the terrorists or it is by those we call bandits or those we call kidnappers or armed robbers. Life is very precious. We should not in any way waste life, whether it is also by the policemen, the security agencies killing ordinary citizens. We should not. Life is sacred. So the issue of respecting the life of individual, which is a guaranteed right under our 1999 Constitution, is something that we need to, I don't know how we're going to do it. Is it by advocacy or by teaching, by orientation, that people should not? Because it has become so worrisome the way lives are being wasted in the country, in Nigeria. And either in the east, either in the north, lives are being wasted daily. It's something that is worrisome. Life is sacred. Nobody should, no matter what could be the explanation, no matter what could be the reason. We should still toe the line of legality. We should still toe the line of rule of law. If anyone has committed any crime, let there be a process. Let there be a procedure for that person to be tried, and if found culpable or guilty, then the laws will take its course. This issue of individuals, rising up, taking laws into their hand, and doing anything that, suits them, especially in the issue of destruction of life, is something that nobody should encourage. I don't want to go into the story, because I heard also that, I don't know how true it is, that those army men were also, liable for killing certain persons that made those people now to retaliate. But I don't think that is appropriate. Now, specifically to the question you asked, whether it is normal for the military.
Oh. Barrister, can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us?
Are you hearing me
yes,
now?
I think we missed you for a bit there. We missed what you said.
Yes. It's not a...
Oh. Okay, we seem to be having... Okay, I think it's back now. Yeah, hello? Oh, we seem to be having issues with this connection. Can you hear us now, Barrister? Hello?
Are you hearing me now?
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
somebody again, I've asked the person to stop calling me and all that. And I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
So the story is that it is not normal for the army to be in charge of internal security. They are known for external aggression under the law. But over time...
Oh. Okay. Barrister?
That yes, are you hearing me? Am I there?
Yes, you're here now.
Hello?
You're here. Yes, you said, but over time, that's the last thing we heard.
Over time,
Yes.
we keep on having Nigerian army doing the internal security arrangement. That's supposed to be specifically the responsibility of the Nigerian police. So I don't think it's normal. Whatever we can do to restore the Nigerian police to their position, as provided for under the 99 Constitution, we should. Even though people are now advocating for state police, but until we get to that, the Nigerian police should be the one in charge of internal security arrangement of the federation. That is my take. So having army, coming in most times, if you are going to this eastern region, you see the army are the ones on the checkpoint. I don't know why. Is it that we are not equipping our police, properly, and then we now have more confidence on the military doing the job that the Nigerian police ought to do. So something that is defective is defective, something that is fundamentally wrong is wrong. So let's restore the police to their normal position under the Constitution and allow them to carry out the internal security arrangement of the country.
Right.
That is one.
Yes.
But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a panel discussion, Barrister. So we have two panelists with us, Barrister Ogunlola. That's one of our panelists, and we also have Professor Ayede from the University of Ibadan. So I would pass the baton to Barrister Ogunlola now. Barrister, you have the floor.
Yes, Monday is so good to have you.
Oh, thank you, my brother.
It's been a long while.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, recently, in the news is this journalist that was picked up by the military, as we got to hear later. The allegations of having written something that did not go down too well with somebody who is, I think, the head of the Navy or something. And I was wondering why, because of course it goes with what you said earlier, why the military would resort to self-help in a land of laws and the rule of law. Why would the military be allowed to do such a thing? And so far, the presidency has not come up to admonish them for what they have done. What's your take on that?
That's right. Yes, as I said earlier, the internal security arrangement of any country, even the developed countries, is a police. Is a police that does that has the constitutional right under Section 4. Section 4 of the Police Act to investigate crime, to prosecute crime, and even to prevent crime. That particular act is there. is intact. Under the Constitution, the internal arrangement also, as I said earlier, sir, is the police. This is clearly clearly unethical. It's clearly unorthodox. The wrong method of using the military and even other security agencies for responsibility that are not specifically provided for them under the law is something that, sometimes it beats our imagination. Do you know that DSS is also involved in debt recovery? DSS. A friend of mine I had was invited recently because somebody is owing somebody, and DSS was the one saying, "You go and pay the debt, or we detain you." So DSS is coming into a matter that is purely civil in the first place, and doesn't bother on state security. DSS. So this misapplication of agencies, in securing Nigeria is something that is very worrisome. Arresting a journalist. If there's any cyber crime committed by journalists against anyone or against any state or an agency, I think this Nigerian police still that have the responsibility under our law to effect the arrest. That is having Nigerian army to arrest somebody for cyber crime. I don't think it's proper. It's abnormal.
Now,
yes.
I just want to add this. Not too long ago, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria addressed the military, where he was pleading with them not to organize any coup. With what we are saying, we're going to what happened in Delta and the case of the journalist that was unlawfully arrested and detained by the military. Do you think the military, the president, is kowtowing the military just to safeguard his administration?
The law, the law. You are putting me in the witness box. You are putting me certainly in the witness box, and I have a right to remain silent. I have a right to remain silent because anything I say can be used against.
So you plead the fifth, as they say in America. You plead the fifth.
Yes, the point is that I will answer it. I don't want to enter into the realms of speculation. Maybe that the president is indulging them because he doesn't want a coup. I may not go up to that extent, but I think that we must begin to enforce our laws. We must begin to advise agencies to do the right thing. Doing the right thing is obedience to rule of law. It gives you gives an impression that this is a civilized country. This is a democratic country. We should not allow some abnormalities, to become normal. No. Nigeria is a country where things that are not normal are becoming abnormal. I mean, you come home and you see 18 hours uninterrupted light. And somebody will be asking, why is NEPA not taking light today? I mean, there are things that happen in Nigeria that is not normal. But, the abnormality has become normal. We shouldn't allow that to happen. If the Nigerian police is doing the wrong thing, we should be able to say, look, this is not right, in accordance with the law. If the Nigerian army also is doing the wrong thing, we should all be bold enough to tell them this is absolutely wrong. We have a chief of army staff. We have those who are in charge of these agencies and security outfits. Should be able to say, no, under our laws, this is wrong. I love what happened a few years ago where a military, head came out and, openly said that the Nigerian army supposed to be subject to the civilian authority. And they are supposed to be subject to civilian authority. And that any army officer that is found wanting in terms of, respecting people's right or trying to breach people's right or violate their right, that they will actually, face the music. I mean, he made that very clear to all of the military. So also I expect the IG, to speak to the Nigerian police officers and tell them, look, you must obey the law of the land. You are asked to do this, and you must do it within the realms of law. If you go beyond that, then there are consequences. Okay. We should all, the civilians also should be spoken to. We must respect our security agencies. We must respect the Nigerian police. We must respect the military. They are there for us, and our tax money is being used to, service them, and they are there for us.
But
so we must also give them that respect.
We need to take
I think we should do that across board. Yes.
We need to take this quick commercial break. Please stay with us. We're back in a moment. Don't go away.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Ramadan tún ti dé. Oya, ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ rìnrìn àjò lọ sáwọn ilé oúnjẹ ìgbàlódé tó yáàyè níbi tẹ́ ẹ ti gbádùn ara yín ní sáà oṣù Ramadan yìí. Àkọ́kọ́ ibẹ̀ ní ilé oúnjẹ Àánú níbi tí pípé ti ṣe pàtàkì. Nítorí náà, ẹ máa fi fún ni. Èyí tó tẹ̀lé ni ilé oúnjẹ Ọrẹ. Nítorí náà,
ẹ máa jẹ́ onínúure tòótọ́. Èyí tó gbẹ̀yìn ni pé kó o dúró lójúnà ìdáríjì kó o sì jọ̀wọ́ gbogbo ìkùnsínú. Ní àkókò àsùbá àti ṣínú, kó èrè wọlé pẹ̀lú adùn náà. Lóṣù Ramadan yìí, má kàn jẹun lásán nìkan, pín ìgbádùn yìí kó o sì wà ní ìdára. Náà jẹun fún ìdára.
Ṣẹ̀mí ń bí olóògùn ọ̀rẹ́.
Ijaodola lètò tó yanjú aáwọ̀.
Láàrin mùtúmùwà.
Tóbilọ́ba Ògúnṣínà Wọ̀kílùmọ̀ látọ́kùn ètò.
Láago 11 àárọ̀ lọ́jọ́ Ẹtì àti Àbámẹ́ta.
Glory, another wonderful opportunity to listen to God's word and what God is saying to you in order to put you over that daunting situation. Kindly tune in to listen to Reverend Chris Oyakilome, DSC, on this station every Friday, 9:45 p.m. A lot is happening and has happened in our world in recent times, and God wants us to know where we are in His calendar so as to effectively carry out our assignments in this year, 2024.
Kò bá jẹ́ 24, 29 tàbí 32 ṣáà ti fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú wa lórí gbogbo ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ kàn tẹ 32FM949 tẹ̀lé fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀.
ọ̀kọ̀lọ́kọ̀ Ramadan dé oṣù ìkẹ́lọ́jà Ramadan dé oṣù àlùbáríkà ní 32FM 94.9 àjàkẹ́rin Cocoa náà wà nìbàdàn ọ̀nà ń kí wa pé a kú àmójúbà o múmi náà máa kú ọdún ó mà tún ti yá ká wá ṣiṣẹ́ ládàá káṣọ nígbọ̀wọ́ ètò iye tágbára bá ká ìṣẹ́jú márùn-ún mẹ́wàá tàbí ìṣẹ́jú mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dógún ọgbọ̀n ìṣẹ́jú wákàtí kan lówó kékeré ọyá kàgbéra ká lọ rálága Ramadan hello Mr. Ayédùn 07083196095 àwọn gan ló máa gbé tàbí kẹ́gbẹ́ Yusufu lórí nọ́mbà yìí 08146113680 àwọn ló máa gbé Ramadan yìí máa dùn wá sọ̀pọ̀ ọdún.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Welcome back, the podium on 32 FM 94.9. We have Barrister Monday Obani with us on the show. Barrister, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, let me go over to Prof now, Professor Ayede, Political Science, University of Ibadan. Prof, your question.
Good morning, Barrister.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Good morning,
sir.
sir.
It is important for us to distinguish between when there are abuse of office, either by top military people or the rank and file. The same also with the police and other security agencies. But I think it is also important for us to recognize the fact that there is a change in the nature of threats and crime in Nigeria today. And it's not just about Nigeria, but also in many parts of the world. And that's why they often call on the military to support the police. And you also know that in many instances, we have this joint squad where we have both the police, the military, coming together in joint operation to address or arrest some of these criminal situations. Yes. Would you therefore still insist that the military or other security agencies have no direct role to play when it comes to internal security?
Yeah, that is a very intelligent question, Prof. I must tell you. What the law says, even the Constitution itself, recognizes the fact that there are instances in a country where the military can be invoked upon, their powers can be invoked upon, especially when there is an internal insurrection or some level of emergencies. You get the Nigerian army, to actually work alongside with other security agencies to maintain law and order in the country. It's there in the Constitution. So even if it is exclusive for the military to handle external aggression, the point is that when there is emergency, when there is some level of insurrection which the police cannot handle, they usually invoke, even in some countries also, that is actually the standard practice. But what we're saying is that we must distinguish, involving military, where there is an emergency, where there is insurrection, distinguish it from having the military getting involved in virtually everything. We even get the military involved in the electoral process. Everything we're doing internally now in democracy, we're getting the military, and they're getting used to doing all the things that the Nigerian police ought to do. And that is very dangerous. We must make sure that we position our police men and women, to be capable of handling internal affairs of the country, internal security arrangement of the country. We must equip them. We must engage in proper training of them. You must give them all the logistics, and make sure that their welfare is taken care of and empower them. This issue of creating ICPC and EFCC and all those agencies, came as a result of the inefficiency of the Nigerian police system, which was masterminded by the former, by the military that were empowered. They didn't want, police officers that can resist coup. Remember Alozie, that police officer that gave a graphic picture of why the military have intentionally, really, really decapitated the Nigerian policing system, making them very incapable and ineffective, for reasons best known to them. So what we're saying, can't we revive, the culture, of the 60s, of the 50s, when the police that was, under our master, our British masters, the colonialists, we are very efficient and doing all the internal, security arrangement of the country. Why are we now using the military to do? Is it that they don't have any job to do? So I think we must make that decision. The constitution itself is very, very clear as to when the military can get involved in internal security arrangements of the country.
Before I go to your learned colleague in the studio, you've talked about, the need for the military to act within the ambit of the law because they are subject to civilian authority. But let's also look at, again, what played out. If you have to train somebody to a level of lieutenant colonel, to a level of major, it takes a lot of resources, strategic resources, financial resources, and everything. But to have them killed in that manner with their body mutilated, what does it say about us as a people? How we view, because there's a side of the abuse and several allegations against all kinds of security agencies and the need for better civilian and military relationship. Yes, we get that. But for a lieutenant colonel, for a major, even a soldier, because they have families. I saw the funeral. It was so emotional for me to have happened that way.
I agree with you. It's clearly barbaric. It's clearly barbaric. That's what I'm saying, that we have lost, the humanity in us. The way people are being murdered, sir, daily. Is it in the north? Is it in the southeast? You saw how policemen also have been killed in the southeastern region. You see what is going on even in the northern region. The way people are being murdered, and it's abnormal. It's not normal. What has happened to us? Have we lost the touch of humanity? Are we no longer human beings, sir? Don't we have feelings? The way you butcher people, not only keep but butcher. If the police, the army men are here that their parts were taken. So what will make me to kill a human being that way and take away all the parts and all that? So we have lost touch with humanity, and it's something that is condemned. I don't know what we're going to do in order to reorientate the young people who are doing this. That is not normal, no matter the level of drugs. What will make you to kill a human being, sir? A human being you don't even create. God, ordinary blood. God, if you see how God, values life, the God that created human beings is so sacred that anyone that kills, in the Old Testament, you are supposed to be killed. So for an eye for an eye. So I'm saying that I don't know what we're going to do in order to reorientate our people on the issue of, sacredness of life. The way we are wasting life in this country, every day. It's something that, is worrisome. I'm also happy that the Nigerian military got very offended and very angry, and decided to show, look, we can't continue this. I want them to get angry. I want all the security agencies to get angry with all the killings, both civilians that are being killed in the north and all that, and say, no, we can't continue to allow this to happen. We must also wipe away those criminals who are doing this. That's my prescription.
Right.
If you must get angry if policemen are murdered or army men are murdered, or let all of us get angry when ordinary civilians are all murdered and all that, because life is life, whether that of the military or not. I agree with you.
Certainly.
Please let's be angry in order to eliminate crime in our country.
Let me go to your Leonard Silk. Is it Silk now? Okay, Barrister Oglola, you have the floor.
You want to give me Silk inside the studio?
you are entitled. It's a prediction. It's a prophecy.
Yes,
it's a prophecy. Yes, it's a prophecy.
Thanks, Monday. Now, let me take you away from this military matters, because it is highly emotional. especially when
That's
one
right.
considers, the very crude manner that those gallant officers were murdered. I want to go into the realm of economics. I don't know if you have read the outcome of the Monetary Policy Committee that sat recently and the increment that attended the MPR. What effect do you think, this increment would have on the economy?
The issue of those who are managing our economy is raising some level of concern, to some of us. They've managed to do something with the exchange rate. You remember that at a time, the dollar was heading towards 1,800, and it was even, running to 119. And then pounds, of course, exceeded 2,000 naira per pound. So it was very, very scary. But I don't know what they have done, in order to reduce and to now, ensure that naira now appreciates in the forex. So it's a cheering news, but prices of things are yet to go down. Even those who were increasing every day whenever there is an increase in dollar, they're yet to now reflect the change in price. In bringing those prices down and all that. That's typical Nigerian way of doing things. So for those who are managing our economy, the finance minister, the central bank governor, we sat down and listened to what they have done with the policy you have just mentioned. We should be very careful. We should be careful on the lending rate, because if people cannot get loan at a very considerable rate, and they are all involved in production, by the time they finish production, they will add all those costs on food items or whatever they are producing, and then the prices become unaffordable by average Nigerians. And so whatever policy we are putting in place, as those who are managing our economy, if we don't take into consideration the interest of the masses, the people themselves, who eventually are the end users of whatever product, of whatever comes from the factories or from the companies, then we're in trouble, because they are the one who buys those things. They are the one who will be the users of those things that are being produced and all that. So the issue of interest rate, the issue of forex exchange, are very key indicator that any serious manager of economy should look at. What is our exchange rate? What is the interest rate for those who are borrowing, those who are running company, those who are borrowing, to really invest in Nigeria and all that. So if we don't bring them to a manageable level, maybe less than 10%, in terms of interest rate, then the economy will keep on, running into problem. And then creating employment, sir. The issue of creation of employment is very key. A lot of guys have graduated from universities, they don't have a job. I'm not talking about those from secondary school now. I'm talking about people who have masters, PhDs, those who are professors are even unemployed in Nigeria. So we must look at a situation of ensuring that we attract investors into the country. What are we going to do to attract investors is that we must get our infrastructures working, our light and our energy sector must be working. The issue of security, if you don't put all those indicators, into positive light, you won't get any investor coming into the country. So we must
Barrister,
yes.
Sorry to come in here. Maybe some of these policies have also been introduced to ensure a bit of sanity in the financial institution, because there had been reports of illegal activity, illegal FX transactions, illegal loans being obtained as well, loans going bad. So maybe this is happening at the interest rates hike as well as the recapitalization of the banks to bring that sanity and more transparency in the financial system. Maybe that's why.
Beautiful, because my brother, the banking sector in Nigeria is clearly complicit. They have most of them are implicated. Even in the forex thing, if you see what these guys are doing, and they become billionaires, keep on declaring profit, but at the expense of Nigerian business. Do you know that some of our clients who borrow money from the banks and they're having some, problems? One would expect banks, like what happened in other developed countries, to come to the rescue of that business that is going down, to rescue and ensure that you remain viable in order to pay your loan. But Nigerian bankers will want to kill that person that has borrowed, and they're probably experiencing some shortfalls or any problem in the company. They will want to kill that company completely and all that. There is no intention to say, okay, what do we inject? What fund are we going to inject into the system in order to revive this company so that when the company is alive, we can be able to pay the loan. So this attitude of Nigerian bankers, in killing the economy and then making sure that it's all about themselves, what they can get out of the system and ruin the economy is one thing we have to look at. They must have a more patriotic, zeal towards, rebuilding Nigeria's economy and run a transparent, banking sector. Presently, our banking sector is clearly opaque. It's not run transparently, just like our economy at the national level too, including the oil sector. Nothing is clear. Everything is just hidden and all that. It doesn't help the economy. It doesn't help investors even to have confidence.
Let me bring in
the
Prof
economy
now.
Of the country.
Let me bring in Prof. Prof.
Yes, Barrister, we've talked about crime, we've talked about the rule of law, but if you go back to what happened at Okwama community and the other communities, you'll find that peace and peace building, as well as reconciliation, it will be very important aspect moving forward.
Yes, sir.
It seems that we have very poor peacemaking or peace-building infrastructure at community level. And that's why we have this kind of challenges. Is the military itself really capable of intervening? Because it was as if there were moves to ensure peace between those fighting communities. And the military was supposed to be part and parcel of that process before this incident. Is it that the infrastructure for peace building at that community level is very weak?
Yes, the issue of peace building, sir, that's why I said we need to engage in more of advocacy, and then also get the leaders at the community level, the traditional rulers, must get involved in building consensus, in building peace. That people, even we in the law profession now, we advocate ADR, alternative.
Oh, Barrister. Okay, I guess we're talking about.
We must avoid all. Hello, sir.
Are
we there?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Am I still being here?
Yes, you're here. You're here.
Hello?
You're here, sir. You're with us.
We can hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, I'm very sorry. I said the issue of building peace, within communities, lies squarely on the head, on the land, or the shoulders of our community leaders and those stakeholders in communities. Whatever can bring everlasting peace is what should be pursued. And then respecting each other's rights, and then always be on the side of justice. What I've discovered, even in my own little area, is that when people are asked to come and probably adjudicate on land matters, you see elders that are supposed to be upright and righteous, turning truth, upside down, turning logic upside down. And then whoever pays who has more money, you give him audience, you give him judgment. That cannot foster peace in those communities. So elders that are very well knowledgeable about justice, knowledgeable about truth, have wisdom and God, the fear of God in their lives, should be placed in position to really create consensus within communities. And when justice is always seen to be done by everyone and all that, nobody will want to take up arms against one. But when you see somebody because he's rich or because he's well known in that community and he does anything and gets away with impunity, others will feel, look, let me take laws into my hand. If I cannot get justice, and especially our judicial system too, sir. Prof is asking question about rule of law. There is no way we can have a country that is running well when the judicial system itself is not running well, when you cannot get justice in the court of law, when you go to court and case will last up to 20 years or 30 years, and and you see truth not being upheld. People will now say, look, what am I wasting my time going to court? I better end it. I better take laws into my hand. There is a man recently that I'm handling his case, sir. This man was duped, of 8 million. Somebody said he wants to gave me a car, and he gave 8 million. Now paid into an account. They have arrested the man that the money was paid into. They brought him to Lagos. Brought him to Lagos, and the man now, some other people were calling. Now he should be released. Nobody's talking about the 8 million that the man has lost. Nobody, they're talking about him being released and all that. And somebody who was even investigating the matter was given, name that because he's an Igbo man, that's why you are pursuing this matter and all that. But nobody is talking about the 8 million and all that. So people, and he has spent so much, he has spent over 3 million pursuing this, with police. So at the end of it all, and I hope he recovers his money. If he does not, how do you want that kind of a man to have, believe in the system, in the police? You go to police in order to have matters resolved. Police keep on extorting money from. At the end of it, or you don't get justice. So why would you not want to go to them again? Or you go to judiciary and the matter will last for more than 20 years. Why would you want to go to judiciary when that matter comes up? So you better say, let me end it. Let me take laws and get justice myself. No, I'm thinking that institutions, we should build institutions, that are very, very strong, that is imbued with justice and equity and righteousness. Then I can assure you that these are part of the measures we must take, in order to build consensus and peace in our communities.
Monday, I am so happy you touched the issue of the judiciary. Let me quickly relate, what was yesterday. I received a call from a client of mine in the UK, and she was telling me a story. I still can't believe what I heard. That there was there was a matter at a magistrate court, and when the accused person was arraigned and his plea taken, he pleaded guilty.
Yes.
And the magistrate adjourned the matter for sentencing. But surprisingly, on the day of sentencing, the magistrate was said to have discharged and acquitted the suspect. Yes, saying that there is no evidence enough to convict the. So when
the man has pleaded guilty.
When the man had pleaded guilty, she called me. This lady called me from England yesterday night. So my question, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I have told her that I am still going to, investigate it. It is somewhere around here in Oyo State. Now the question I want to ask: should we leave it only at the level of the Court of Appeal? Because when Falana was in Ibadan some time ago, he was at our NBA week, and he said, expose the judges. Expose the judges. What do we do, aside going on appeal? Isn't there,
remedy.
Any other remedy to deal with some of these?
No, there are. There are. Now, for magistrate, of course, it is a state thing. You have to report to the chief judge of the state, But you do your investigation in this matter, as you have rightly pointed out, to find out what transpired. I know that even when somebody has also pleaded guilty, if the evidence is not sufficient enough to convict, I know that the magistrate have a discretion not to, even when you have pleaded guilty. But the point is that if the offenses are well established, and the proof of evidence, that is before the court show that this man has committed a crime, and having made confessional statement, it will be very, very difficult for me now to hear that the man was discharged and acquitted, for want of evidence, when the evidence is already implicit in the document that is before the court. So I think you have one has a remedy. With the magistrate is the state chief judge, and then they can be tried also by the State Judicial Service Commission. They can be tried there. You can write a petition also to that particular body. Now, for the High Court judges, of course, we know that it's NJC. The Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court is NJC that handle those matter of judges, from High Court. So apart from appeal, of course, we appeal when they erred on ground of law and fact. You can go on appeal. Not everything that will make you to write a petition if you have, sufficient grounds to appeal. But if there is element of crime, if there is element of fraud, if there is element of corruption in judgment that has been given by a judge, then you have a right, and if you have the evidence, to bring it up before the appropriate authorities, NJC, and then the Chief Justice of Nigeria can also be written, and they can call that judge to order. We have had instances where judges have been punished in Nigeria. We also have instances where magistrates have been dismissed by the state government. We had so many in Lagos at the time when they were so much involved in corruption, taking money, in granting bail and even stalling bail application, all because they want money and all that. And most of them were flushed out of the system. So apart from appeal, which is an option, which is a constitutional right, you also have a right if you have information about crime committed by the judges. So approach the court. Find out, dig deep into that case.
Oh,
yes,
definitely, I will do that. Before we leave the issue of the judiciary, before you came on board, we were discussing what transpired in Senegal, the role the judiciary played, in normalizing, what would have been a turbulent political turf.
yes.
Now, coming back to Nigeria, how would you rate, the judiciary so far?
Again, I have a right. I have a right to remain silent on this. I have a right to remain silent on this. I wrote an article.
Okay.
I wrote an article about our judiciary, in electoral process. If you read it, I delivered that lecture in South Africa. Yes, if you Google online, Obani on judiciary, I wrote. So I've written so many articles. I've also spoken in favor of Nigerian judiciary. Yes, please. Yes. And one of the things I keep on saying is that our judges must be very bold and must go and do justice at every point in time, not looking at any person. No, look, they are not politically biased. I mean, they are supposed to be apolitical. Judges are supposed to be apolitical. Judges are supposed to be very bold. They are supposed to be very courageous. The moment those traits are there and we have recruited the right set of people in the judiciary, then we have nothing to fear. And you see, it has happened in Malawi, where the justice of the Supreme Court, they are turned down an election that was wrong. It happened in Kenya. They did. And now we're having it now in Senegal, where you have mentioned, where the judiciary played a very vital role. This is the kind of role we also want our judges to play here. A lot of things happened during the 2023 election. If you look at some of the judgments of the Court of Appeal, especially at the Court of Appeal level and the tribunal, they were so inconsistent and created some level of doubt at the end of the day, despite the fact that we have an innovative electoral act that made many innovative provisions. Look at Section 137 that says where you have sufficient documentary evidence, you don't need to go and call oral witness. They're still saying that you have to call all the polling unit agents.
Exactly.
Whereas the law says if you have evidence that are in documents, and is certified, those documents are certified showing the result in non-compliance ground of petition. You don't need to go and call all the witnesses again, but they're still relying on the 2010 Electoral Act. So these are some of the problems we're having with our justice. Still not living up to expectation in terms of innovativeness of the new Electoral Act. But I think over time, with learning and correction and with advocacy and also with write-ups by professors.
Sorry to come in here. Could it also be that, lawyers being lawyers, apologies to the learned colleagues here, they try to take advantage of whatever lacuna is in the system, even if it means filing what might be deemed a frivolous suit at the end of the day. They do what Yorubas call Ijaodola, that's gamble. So at the end of the day, when the judgment goes against them, their clients who are politicians, they politicize it, they feed the supporters with all kinds of narrative, and they run with it that it's judiciary that has to be blamed. Could that also be
Monday? Don't mind Toba.
Because judges must be in charge.
Yes,
judges must be in charge of their case.
Because I follow cases where judges are chastising the lawyers. How would you bring this? This. But they still do it. They still entertain some of these petitions.
Yes. No matter how frivolous a petition or any process is, a judge is supposed to be in charge of his case or his court. If it's frivolous, you dismiss it. Are you following me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If a petition is frivolous, the judge should be able to say this is very frivolous and dismiss it. But we have had a situation where people come with frivolous things and then somebody is hearing and giving them an audience and all that. I have a case now that is in court where the man does not have any registered title, does not have any registered survey. Are you following me?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm with you.
But he's still claiming the land. He's already building on the land. No register. But my client has a registered title for over 10 years, and he's registered in land registry. But the survey also registered. But his own survey is not registered. But in court, he's being given an audience, So my take is that judges should be in charge of their cases and try as much as possible to uphold justice at all times, no matter whose ox is God. Yes. At the end of it all, people will now begin to respect the rule of law. And knowing fully whether if they go to court, they will lose. They will not in any way have any ground for any judge to even give them audience, So I think that we all have a role to play. Lawyers also have a role to play, sir. A lot of lawyers are very, very dubious. That's the truth. A lot of lawyers are not playing by the rules. They file frivolous applications. Some of them because they want to be senior advocates of Nigeria. They even go on appeal on frivolous matter that have no ground. And they go on appeal. And they're being given audience. Whereas those things are supposed to be filtered at the registry. If it's not, there's no ground, you throw it out. Don't even allow it to be filed in the first place. But all manner of things goes in, and up to Supreme Court. So we must begin to do these things, sir, to make sure that we do the right thing. I understand what my my brother is asking, the learned colleague. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, but Barrister, as a rapper, I just want to get your thoughts on this one because we are about wrapping up the show now. The issue of declaring somebody wanted, the list that was released, I think was during the week of a sponsor of terrorism. Some people reacted that no, you don't declare people wanted. You don't declare them sponsors of terror. That if you have any evidence against them, charge them to court. Fanama is also saying the same thing regarding the defense headquarters declaring some individuals wanted in relation to the killing in Delta. He says, murder is not a purview of the military. Therefore, they cannot declare people wanted in that regard. What's your position on that? Declaring people wanted. I
agree with Femi Falana, the Lenesi. It's not Nigerian army now that's declare somebody wanted now. Those guys are not military men. It's only military men you can try. It's only military men you can investigate. If there is any crime that have been committed in the country, so it is the Nigerian police that we declare them wanted. But I'm surprised that Nigerian police is the one handing over a particular suspect to the military. Yes. I don't know what the military can prosecute. They cannot under our constitution. They cannot, sir. That is the truth. They cannot. So it is the abnormality we are complaining about. So it's not normal. It's not normal.
Right. Thank you so much, Barrister Monday Obani. I don't know if Prof has any final thoughts, comments before we let him go.
Yeah, I think he has raised a very important point concerning the power to prosecute. That the police handed over one of the suspects to the military. And it's a very huge contradiction. Which brings us to the point of how do the relationship between or the activity between the police and the military are they coordinated in situations like this? Because it's supposed to be the other way around of the military, like even in the case of the Usman of
Boko Haram back then.
The military got hold of him and then they handed him over to the police. Exactly. We now have a situation where the police gets hold of a suspect and hands him over to the military.
It's abnormality. It's abnormality, sir. It's not normal.
Okay, Barrister, final thoughts.
Monday, I see say the face they shine well. Be like say practice day very robust for Lagos. So.
What are you trying to say? You go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it.
Lagos is where the money is.
The thing it be like say it's sweet for Lagos. So. Make you remember us for Ibadan.
Yes.
Clearly the grace of God.
Right.
It's clearly the grace of God.
Yes,
right. Thank you so much, Barrister Obani, for joining us on such short notice. It's been a very interesting conversation with you on the podium. Thank you so much.
Thanks, and my learned brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yes, Barrister Monday Obani there joining us. And quite unfortunate, the Edo State Deputy Governor, we had finalized with him during the week. We've spoken to him yesterday as well. I mean, all for him to be unreachable this morning. But anyway, it was still a very robust conversation with Michael Ejiofor, the former director of the DSS, joining us earlier on the show, the engagement with the panelists in the studio, and of course, Barrister Monday Obani joining us as well. Hopefully, maybe Philip Shaibu, the Edo State Deputy Governor, will join us in subsequent edition, especially before the election in Edo State, a very crucial one at that, where he's hoping to swim against the tide, really. The tide in his party, the position of his principal, the impeachment saga he faces in the House of Assembly as well. A lot of issues to unpack in there in Edo State.
Maybe a very important political meeting came up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's what I'm guessing. Because politicians, they hold meetings in the midnight.
Yes.
I was listening to Ajuri Ngelale. He said the president does not sleep. So, politicians don't sleep normally.
Yeah.
But anyway,
meeting after the meeting.
Let me just take two messages on Facebook before we go. Honorable Akikomi says, if you're criticizing the government, criticize constructively with fact and probably offer solution to the problem facing the country, not criticizing the president because your preferred candidate lost in an election. The criticism by some part of the opposition, we know it's not criticism, it's maligning the personality of the president and members of his cabinet. The CBN increased interest rate, but some people totally against it, and investors in government bonds, treasury are smiling home. It's a two-way thing. It's investors' money, the banks are borrowing you. Let's have a good criticisms, not one filled with hatred. Okay, Dumabasa says, how come a traditional ruler and professor's name were mentioned in the Okwama community crisis. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Prof, as well. Thank you to my producer, Bola Bofe for the support and everything. Thank you so much for listening to us as well. But back again next Saturday on the podium. My name is Sulon Tuba Yusuf. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.
Safa